It was a night of pouring rain. The poor maid knelt down, trembling, her eyes lifted toward the cold, untouchable millionaire, and whispered the words no one else dared to say, "Will you marry me?" And then the unthinkable happened. He nodded, without hesitation, without a single question. Hello, everyone. Before we dive into today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our newest dramatic stories. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. I'd love to know. Thank you so much for your support. Now then, let's return to our main character. The city was drowning in rain. The Grand Royal Hotel, usually glowing like a crystal tower, now stood like a silent fortress against the storm. Lightning cracked across the sky, briefly revealing the marble lions at the gate, their eyes gleaming in the floodlight. Inside, Anna Collins, 22, pushed her housekeeping cart down the silent hallway of the 6th floor. Her uniform was soaked at the sleeves, her shoes squeaked with each step. She checked her list, room 602, 603, and then 604. She didn't know that one mistake tonight would rewrite both their lives. She paused. The hallway lights flickered. Thunder roared and the power went out. Darkness swallowed everything. Anna exhaled, clutching her flashlight. Perfect, she muttered. Just perfect. She pushed the cart forward, guided only by the dim beam. The storm howled outside the windows, shaking them in their frames. When she reached room 604, she swiped her keycard, expecting another empty suite. The door clicked. She stepped in. What she didn't see sitting by the window in the dark was Simon Ward, 34, CEO of Ward International, the man whose decisions made headlines. Tonight he was alone, nursing a glass of whiskey in silence. Anna's cart bumped against the table. "Oh, sorry," she whispered, startled. "I didn't realize. It's fine." Simon's voice cut through the dark, calm but heavy. "Power's out. You shouldn't be working in this weather." She froze. The voice was familiar, the kind people heard through TV interviews or financial reports. She felt her heart leap. "Mr. Ward, I didn't mean to intrude." "I thought stay," he said quietly. "The elevators are down. You'd be safer here until the power's back." Anna hesitated, torn between duty and fear. She could hear the wind raging outside, rattling the glass. Finally, she nodded. "Okay, just until it's safe." Minutes turned to hours. The storm didn't stop, and neither did the silence. Anna sat awkwardly by the coffee table, hands folded. Simon poured another drink but didn't touch it. "Rough night for both of us," he said at last. "You're housekeeping?" "Yes, sir, just for a few months, until I can pay rent." Her voice trembled slightly. "My mom's sick, so I pick up night shifts." Simon looked at her not with the distant glance of a billionaire, but with something like quiet curiosity. "What's your name, Anna Collins?" "Anna?" he repeated softly, as if testing how it sounded. "You're young to be carrying that much weight." She smiled faintly. "We don't get to choose the storms, do we?" He gave a low chuckle. "No, we don't." Time passed. The candles flickered. The air smelled faintly of rain and whiskey. Anna noticed a small notebook fall from her cart, its cover worn a pressed flower inside. She didn't see it drop, but Simon did. When she went to check the fuse box, he picked it up, curiosity overtaking him. The first page read in tiny handwriting, "Be kind, even when no one's watching." Mom always said kindness is free, so why do people spend so little of it? He turned another page. "Rent's due next week. Maybe if I skip lunch again, I can make it. But I wish Mom could afford her medicine. I wish she didn't apologize every time she coughs." Simon felt something twist in his chest. For years, his life had been numbers, mergers, and negotiations. Yet here in this notebook was a world entirely different. Simple, raw, painfully human. He took out his pen and wrote beneath her last entry, "Kindness should never be treated as weakness. Sometimes it's the only thing holding this world together. SW." When Anna returned, he quietly closed the notebook and placed it on the table. "You dropped this." Her eyes widened. "Oh, thank you. I didn't realize." He smiled faintly. "You write beautifully. You remind me that not everything has to be about profit and power." She blushed, embarrassed. It's just something I do when I'm tired. Writing makes the days feel lighter. Lightning flashed again. The storm intensified. Simon looked at her, really looked at her this time. The soaked hair strands clinging to her face, the faint trembling in her hands, the quiet resilience in her eyes. Most people in this building walk past you, he said softly, and never see the person behind the uniform. That's their loss. Anna met his gaze surprised. Why are you being kind to me? He hesitated. Because I know what it's like to be unseen. At 3 a.m., the lights finally flickered back on. The storm began to fade into soft rain. Anna stood flustered. I should go. I've taken too much of your time. Simon stood too. Anna, he paused, then handed her a folded note. If you ever need anything, room 604 isn't locked to you. She nodded, unsure how to respond. Good night, Mr. Ward. As she pushed her cart away, Simon watched her go, the sound of her footsteps fading down the hall. He turned back to the notebook on his desk. The pressed flower had slipped out, landing next to his untouched glass of whiskey. He picked it up, whispering to the empty room kindness, holding the world together. Outside, the rain finally stopped. Inside, something began to change, quietly, irreversibly. 1 week later. The Grand Royal Hotel was alive again, chandeliers blazing polished marble floors, reflecting the rhythm of success. But ever since the storm, Anna had felt different. Every corridor seemed to hum with quiet echoes of that night. The dark room, the flicker of candles, and the unexpected gentleness in Simon Ward's voice. She hadn't seen him since, until that morning. Anna was pushing her cart toward the elevator when a hand stopped the door from closing. She looked up and froze. Simon Ward stood before her, sharp in a dark tailored suit, rein still clinging to his shoulders. The air around him shifted, commanding attention without trying. Yet his eyes softened the moment they found hers. Miss Collins, he said quietly, a small smile tugging at his lips. I thought you'd vanished. Anna gripped the handle of her cart tighter. I'm still here, sir, just keeping my head down. Simon tilted his head. Don't. You've got nothing to hide. She blinked, unsure how to respond. He pressed the elevator button for the top floor, the executive level, and then, without looking away from her, said, Come with me. The elevator climbed in silence. Anna's heart thudded so loudly she was sure he could hear it. When the doors opened, the view hit her, the entire city glittering below clouds, drifting past the massive glass windows. It didn't feel like the same world anymore. This floor is usually restricted, she whispered. Simon nodded. I know. I made an exception. They walked down a hall lined with glass offices and silent portraits of former CEOs, all men in crisp suits, faces frozen in ambition. Simon stopped in front of his office and opened the door. Come in. Inside the space was vast and minimalist walls of glass, a piano in the corner, a storm painting above his desk. The skyline shimmered behind him like a crown he never wanted to wear. Why am I here? Anna finally asked. Simon turned to her. Because I owe you something. Owe me, she frowned. For what? He opened a drawer and placed something on the table, her notebook. Anna's breath caught. You kept it. I read it that night, he admitted. Not all of it, just enough to realize how small my world has become. He looked at her directly. You reminded me what it means to care. Anna flushed, caught between gratitude and panic. Sir, that was private, I know. His tone softened. And I'm sorry. But it helped me remember who I used to be before the company swallowed me whole. He paused as if measuring the air between them. I want you to help me with something. With what, she asked cautiously. With the hotel's annual charity gala. The management team is too mechanical. I want it to mean something again. And I think you could do that. Anna blinked. Me? I'm a maid, not a manager. Simon smiled faintly. You're the only one here who understands what empathy looks like. By evening, Anna found herself standing in the grand ballroom surrounded by glittering chandeliers, white roses, and chaos. Staff rushed everywhere preparing for the biggest event of the year. And in the middle of it all stood Simon. Sleeves rolled up, tie loosened, clipboard in hand, looking nothing like the distant CEO from the news. You're late, he teased gently. I didn't know what to wear, she said, glancing at her plain uniform. He chuckled. You're fine. We're not here for show. We're here to make this night matter. Hours blurred into each other, planning, rearranging, solving problems no one else could. Anna's confidence grew with each small decision, each nod of approval from Simon. When she accidentally spilled a glass of water on an expensive tablecloth, Simon only laughed. Relax. It's just fabric, not the end of the world. For the first time, she laughed too. Midnight. The ballroom was empty, silent, except for the echo of soft music playing from Simon's phone. The lights were dim, casting a golden glow on the marble floor. Anna stood by the balcony, looking down at the city below her reflection, faint in the glass. Simon approached slowly, 2 cups of coffee in hand. You look like someone who's about to quit. Just thinking, she said softly, about how strange this all is. Me standing here like I belong. He handed her a cup. You do belong. She met his gaze, unsure whether to believe him. You don't have to say that. I'm not saying it to be kind, Simon replied, his voice steady. I'm saying it because it's true. He leaned against the railing beside her. The silence between them wasn't awkward. It was heavy, electric, full of unsaid things. Do you ever get tired, Anna asked suddenly, of pretending you have everything together? Simon's jaw tightened. Every day. Their eyes met and held. Something fragile cracked open. Anna, he said softly the night of the storm. When I read your words, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. You reminded me that there's more to life than surviving. Anna's voice was barely a whisper. And what if I told you that night reminded me what hope feels like? He took a step closer. The air thickened. Then I'd say, hope looks beautiful on you. She laughed shakily. You shouldn't say things like that, Mr. Ward. Then stop looking at me like that, Miss Collins. The words hung between them like the last thread holding back the inevitable. Outside, thunder rumbled far in the distance. The storm had passed, but its ghost lingered. Simon set his coffee down and reached out, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. She froze, eyes wide. Tell me to stop, he murmured. Anna didn't. The world outside faded, just the rain, the golden light, and 2 people standing too close in a place they didn't belong. Their lips didn't meet in a rush, but in a quiet inevitability, the kind born from long silence, from too much restraint. It was hesitant, tender, full of unspoken things neither dared to name. When they finally pulled apart, Anna exhaled shakily. This is wrong, maybe Simon said, but it's real. She turned away, heart pounding. People will talk. Let them, he replied, voice low. They always do. The next days blurred like a fever dream. They worked together on the gala. Preparation schedules, decor speeches, yet every glance carried an undercurrent of something deeper. A stolen moment in the elevator. Fingers brushing when they passed a folder. A silent smile across the crowded room. But under it all was fear. Anna could feel the weight of every whisper, every camera, every pair of eyes waiting to twist the truth. On the night of the gala, the ballroom glittered like a dream. Celebrities, investors, journalists all bathed in gold light and champagne. And in the middle of it, Anna stood in a borrowed gown, hair softly curled, eyes wide with disbelief. Simon approached dressed in black, his gaze locked on her like nothing else existed. You clean up nicely, he said quietly. You too, she whispered, trying not to tremble. He leaned in slightly. Ready as I'll ever be. The evening unfolded perfectly. Speeches, laughter, applause, all choreographed like clockwork. But when Simon took the stage for his address, something changed. He didn't read from the script. Tonight he began, voice steady but warm. We're not here for prestige. We're here to remember what compassion means. The crowd fell silent. There's someone who reminded me that leadership isn't about power, but about empathy. She showed me that kindness can build more bridges than money ever could. His eyes found Anna in the crowd. For a split second, their world narrowed to just 2 people, a man with everything, and a woman who'd taught him what truly mattered. Applause erupted. Cameras flashed. Anna's heart raced, torn between pride and panic. Later that night, when the guests were gone and only the faint music lingered, Simon found her standing alone among the empty tables. "You shouldn't have said that," she murmured. "People will know." "I want them to know," he said quietly. "I'm not ashamed." Anna shook her head, tears brimming. "You don't understand. They'll twist it. They'll say, 'I'm after your money, your power.'" Simon stepped closer. "Let them say what they want. I know the truth." "And what is the truth, Simon?" He hesitated. Then, "That I've never met anyone like you." She closed her eyes, fighting tears. "You're making it impossible for me to walk away." "Then don't." The music swelled, soft and bittersweet. In that vast, glittering ballroom, two souls stood on the edge of a world that wouldn't forgive them. But in that moment, they didn't care. The night was theirs. The future could wait. Outside, the city lights flickered like stars, and for once the glass walls of the Grand Royal felt less like a prison and more like home. The next morning, the news spread faster than the sunrise. CEO Simon Ward seen with hotel maid at Grand Royal Gala. Mysterious woman behind Ward's emotional speech. Scandal in the clouds, has the Grand Royal lost its crown? Headlines flashed across screens, whispered in corridors, and echoed in every boardroom. In less than 12 hours, the story of Anna Collins, the maid who stole the CEO's heart, had turned into a wildfire. Anna walked through the hotel lobby, head lowered, her uniform freshly pressed, though her hands trembled. Every conversation stopped when she passed. Every smile felt like pity, every whisper like a knife. She wanted to disappear. "Anna," a voice called behind her. It was Simon's secretary, nervous and pale. "Mr. Ward asked to see you." "Now." Anna followed her to the executive floor, the same hallway that once felt like a dream. But now it felt like a courtroom. Inside Simon's office, the blinds were half drawn. The city stretched out in silver morning light. Simon stood by the window, phone in hand, his expression unreadable. When he turned, his voice was low but steady. "They've called for an emergency board meeting." Anna swallowed. "Because of me, because of us," he corrected softly. "But I'll handle it." She wanted to believe him. But behind his calm eyes, she saw the storm gathering, one fiercer than any thunder outside. The boardroom. 9:00 a.m., 12 members sat around a gleaming mahogany table, their faces sharp as knives. Cameras were banned, but the air was electric with tension. Simon, the chairman, began coldly. "Ward International has survived recessions, scandals, and takeovers. But this..." He slid a tabloid across the table. "This is reckless." Simon didn't flinch. "That's speculation. Nothing inappropriate happened." "Perhaps not yet," another member said dryly. "But perception is reality, and the perception is that you've crossed a line." He leaned forward. "A CEO does not fraternize with staff, especially not a maid." Simon's jaw tightened. Her job title doesn't define her worth. "That's a poetic sentiment," someone scoffed, "but it won't save our stock price." The chairman folded his hands. "Simon Ward, by unanimous vote, the board has decided to suspend your duties for 30 days, pending internal review." The room fell silent. Simon exhaled slowly. "So be it." Outside the boardroom, Anna waited, clutching the strap of her bag. When Simon emerged, she saw the verdict in his eyes before he spoke. "They suspended you," she whispered. He nodded once. 30 days. Her throat tightened. "Because of me? Because I let them think they could shame kindness," he said quietly. "Don't apologize for being human, Anna." He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper, a photocopy of a notebook page. Her handwriting, the one that read, "Be kind, even when no one's watching." He had written beneath it, "Don't ever let them convince you that grace is weakness." He handed it to her. "Keep this, and don't let them break you." Her eyes stung. "What will you do now?" He smiled faintly, that tired, lopsided smile she'd come to know. "Disappear for a while. Let the noise eat itself." Anna shook her head, fighting tears. "You don't deserve this." "Maybe I do," he said softly. "For forgetting that real power doesn't come from the top floor. It comes from here." He placed a hand over his heart, then gently brushed his fingers against her wrist, the briefest, most forbidden touch. "Take care of yourself, Anna." And with that, he walked away past the flashing cameras, the whispering staff, the golden lobby he had built brick by brick. The doors closed behind him, and the echo lingered long after he was gone. Days passed. The Grand Royal felt emptier without him. Meetings were quieter, the air colder. The executives avoided Anna, now afraid of guilt by association. She was reassigned to routine cleaning on the lower floors. Each morning she clocked in, smiled, worked, pretended not to hear the gossip. She must have planned it. Poor girl probably thought he'd marry her. Bet she's looking for another rich man now. She didn't respond. Instead, when no one was watching, she'd open the folded paper Simon gave her, tracing the ink with her fingers. Don't let them convince you that grace is weakness. And she'd breathe again. Meanwhile, somewhere outside the city, Simon had left the skyline behind. No suits, no meetings, no polished boardrooms. Just a cabin by the lake, quiet, cold, humbling. For the first time in years, he had to face himself. He spent mornings sitting by the water, coffee in hand, the silence pressing against his thoughts. Nights were harder, full of memories of her laughter, the way she'd looked at him in that golden ballroom light. He tried to bury himself in paperwork phone calls, anything to drown out the ache. But no matter how many deals he declined or calls, he ignored one truth haunted him. Without her, everything was just noise. He pulled out a photo once, not a selfie or a portrait, but a picture the event photographer had accidentally captured at the gala. Anna laughing beside a table of roses, unaware anyone was watching. He smiled, whispering to himself, "You were the only real thing in that room." Back in the city, Anna returned to her small apartment every night exhausted. Her mother's cough had worsened the medicine bills higher than ever. But she refused to quit. Maybe because quitting meant letting the world win. Sometimes she'd pass by the lobby TV and see news updates. Ward International Restructuring Board extends Review Ward Foundation donations on hold. The world kept turning indifferent. But Anna still wrote in her notebook, new pages filled with small acts of courage. Helped Mrs. Lee find her lost ring today. The new intern cried in the laundry room, gave her half my sandwich. Sometimes I miss him so much it hurts. But I remind myself, storms don't last forever. Day 29. The rumor mill exploded again, a leaked memo, a possible resignation. People whispered that Simon Ward would never return. That evening, Anna stayed late cleaning the top floor alone. It felt strange walking those halls again, echoes of laughter, of quiet conversations of the night. Everything changed. She found herself standing outside room 604. The door was half open, lights off. Dust had settled like time itself had stopped waiting. She stepped inside. The air smelled faintly of whiskey and rain, the ghosts of that first night still lingering in the walls. She walked to the window where the city stretched endless and bright. And there on the table sat something she hadn't noticed before, a small envelope. Her name written in Simon's handwriting. Hands trembling, she opened it. Anna, if you're reading this, it means I haven't come back yet. I wanted to tell you that what we shared wasn't a mistake. You reminded me that empathy is strength, that grace is power, and that kindness is the only currency that never loses its value. If I don't return, build something good out of what we had. Don't let it die with gossip. Yours, Simon. Her tears blurred the ink. She pressed the letter to her heart, whispering, "You're coming back. I know you are." Day 30. The sky cleared for the first time in weeks. Anna arrived early, feeling the quiet thrum of something shifting. When she stepped into the lobby, the whispers started again. But this time they weren't cruel. They were curious. She turned. Simon Ward had returned. No cameras, no entourage. Just him in a simple gray coat hair, slightly longer eyes, softer than she remembered. Their eyes met across the room, and for a moment, everything stopped. The noise, the stares, the world. Just them. He walked toward her unhurried. You kept working. She smiled through tears. You kept your promise. He nodded, eyes glinting. And now it's time to keep another. 30 days. That was all it took for silence to replace the hum of his voice in every corridor. The Grand Royal Hotel no longer echoed with Simon Ward's presence. His suite remained locked. The penthouse curtains drawn, and the glass elevator that once carried him to the top now seemed to avoid the highest floor, as if even the machinery mourned his absence. Anna Harper returned to her duties as quietly as she could. But the gossip never stopped. Whispers trailed her every step. The CEO's maid, the charity scandal, the reason he's gone. She pretended not to hear. She polished, folded, arranged her hands, always moving her heart, always somewhere else. The hotel now felt like an empty stage after the actors had left. The chandeliers still glittered, the floors still shone, but the soul was missing. Every night Anna would sit in the break room long after her shift ended. The kindness diary sat beside her, its pages bent and stained from too many tears. On the last page, she found the sentence Simon had written. Grace is not weakness. It was that single line that kept her standing when the world seemed to fold around her. The days without him. In the first week, she expected a call. By the second, she hoped for a letter. By the third, she feared the silence meant goodbye. But on the 30th morning, something unexpected happened. The general manager entered the staff hall, his tone formal, but strangely gentle. Mr. Simon Ward has requested your presence, Miss Harper. Anna froze. The sound of her name next to his felt foreign now. Where she whispered. The answer came with a sealed envelope. On its flap was the faint imprint of Simon's handwriting, for Anna. S.W. Her heart thudded. With trembling fingers, she tore it open. Inside was a single sheet. I've learned that leadership without heart is nothing. Come find me where kindness lives. S. No address, no explanation, only that cryptic line. The return, she followed the trail of whispers. The news soon reached the press. Simon Ward, former CEO of Grand Royal Fund's massive community project for underprivileged families. Her pulse raced. Could that be what he meant? 2 days later, Anna boarded a train heading out of the city. It rained the entire way, an echo of that first storm months ago. When she arrived at the small town listed in the article, she saw it a new building, gleaming in the gray drizzle, its sign carved in warm wood letters, Ward Community Center. Her breath caught. The architecture was humble, yet elegant, with open windows, children's laughter spilling out, and a large mural of an open door painted on one wall. Beneath the mural were words in gold: compassion is the key that opens every locked door. She walked in. The scent of fresh paint mingled with rain. Volunteers in blue shirts moved briskly, arranging supplies and books. And at the center of it, all bent over a box of donated shoes, was Simon. He was in simple jeans and a gray shirt sleeves, rolled up hair a bit longer than she remembered. He didn't look like a CEO. He looked like someone who had found peace. Simon, she breathed. He turned, startled. And for a second, it was as if the 30 days had never existed. Anna. Her name was a sigh, a prayer, a memory. She tried to speak, but failed. Tears filled her eyes before the words could. He closed the distance between them, gently brushing his thumb across her cheek. I wasn't sure you'd come, he murmured. You told me to find you where kindness lives, she whispered. I just followed your words. A faint smile crossed his lips. Then you found it. He led her through the center, past classrooms filled with children, a small clinic, and a workshop for single parents learning new trades. Every wall carried a story, a name, a purpose. It's not a hotel, he said, but it's home for many. Anna looked around in awe. You did all this in a month? I didn't do it alone, he replied softly. You started it. Me. He pointed toward a glass display at the heart of the lobby. Inside it, resting under soft lights, was her old battered notebook, the kindness diary. Visitors paused to read excerpts printed beside it, small notes about hope, humanity, and quiet resilience. You once wrote that you wanted to make the world softer, Simon said. I thought maybe this could be your way. Her lips trembled. You kept it. I couldn't throw away the thing that saved me, he admitted. That night in the storm, I was ready to sign papers to sell the hotel chain. Retire, disappear. But your words reminded me why I started everything in the first place. The public scene. At noon, the mayor and local press gathered for the official opening ceremony. Simon stood before the crowd with Anna beside him, her uniform replaced by a modest cream dress. Cameras flashed, microphones rose, and murmurs spread when they recognized her. Simon raised his hand for silence. "You've all read stories about power, money, and scandal," he said, his voice steady. "But this place, this moment, is not about any of that. It's about rediscovering what it means to care." He looked at Anna, and for the first time, he didn't hide what she meant to him. "This woman reminded me that leadership isn't control, it's compassion. That grace doesn't make you weak, it makes you human." Gasps rippled through the crowd, reporters scribbling furiously. Anna wanted to shrink away, but Simon's presence beside her anchored her to the ground. Then, as the applause broke out, he did something that silenced every camera shutter. He knelt down. Not in proposal, but in humility. Her breath hitched. He reached for her shoe, mud-streaked from the rain, and quietly retied the loosened lace. When he looked up, he said softly, so only she could hear, "You taught me this, that caring for someone isn't about grand gestures. It's about the little things." The world around them blurred into applause and flashing lights. Yet for Anna, there was only him kneeling not as a CEO, not as a savior, but as a man who had learned how to love without pride. The press later called it the crownless redemption. Photos of Simon tying Anna's shoelace went viral, captioned a CEO who knelt for kindness. But for them, the noise didn't matter. After the ceremony, they slipped away to the back garden of the center. The grass was wet, the air smelled of rain, and laughter from the children filled the distance. Anna spoke first. "What happens now?" Simon leaned against the bench, watching the sky clear. "Now, we build. Not towers, not hotels, something that lasts." "And us?" she asked quietly. He smiled slow, knowing without hesitation. "There's no us that needs to be declared, Anna. There's only what we choose to keep showing up for." She nodded, tears glimmering, but no longer from pain. "Then I'll keep showing up." He took her hand. "That's all I'll ever need." Epilogue. The door that changed everything. Years later, tourists visiting the Ward Community Center would always pause by the glass display. Inside, under warm light, was that old diary, its pages yellowed, its spine cracked. Beside it was a plaque. The story began with a storm, and a door opened by mistake. But sometimes the wrong door leads you exactly where you belong. No one mentioned the scandal anymore. The Grand Royal Hotel continued under new management, but whispers still said that on some evenings, Simon and Anna could be seen sitting on the rooftop watching the lights of the city fade into night. He, the man who once ruled boardrooms. She, the maid who taught him grace. And between them, no crown, no title, no throne. Just two souls who learned that love, when born from kindness, doesn't need a crown to shine.